Welcome to Turning Hard Times to Good Times. I am your host, Jay Taylor, talking to you from New York City on this, the 23rd day of February, 2021. And I do like to remind you, I am the editor of a newsletter called Jay Taylor's Gold, Energy, and Tech Stocks. You can sign up for that letter by going to miningstocks.com, or call our office in New York at 718-457-1426. I would also encourage you to consider signing up for Chen Lin's letter, What is Chen Buying, What is Chen Selling? Chen has really carved out a niche in the biotech sector. He also follows a lot of the mining shares as well, and energy is another area, but he's done exceptionally well in the biotech space. And so signing up for Chen's letter, you go to chenpicks.com. And also I'd like you to consider signing up for Michael Oliver's work, his excellent work as well, and he will be with us again next week. I want to thank all of you for listening to this show, making it one of the more popular shows in the Voice America Business Channel, and also encourage you to send along whatever comments you have about this show. Send them to questionsfortaylor@gmail.com, questions and number 4, Taylor@gmail.com. And we do want to thank our sponsors, because without them there would be no show. This week's sponsors are SK Mining Corp., Novo Resources, Sitka Gold Corp., El Oro Resources, Irving Resources, Hannon Metals, Fury Gold Mines, Great Bear Resources, and Lion One Metals. I've titled today's show, What Became of the Crow? Robert Moriarty and Dr. Quinton Henning return as guests to participate in what is a very special show for my two guests today, for me personally, and for all investors of Novo Resources who have followed this very unusual gold exploration story over the past 8 to 10 years. What Became of the Crow is the title of Bob Moriarty's most recent book. Perhaps when I speak with Bob in a few minutes from now, he will explain how, in 1888, a very nasty, hungry crow pointed human beings to the existence of an abundance of gold nuggets in the Pilbara region of Western Australia. So for many decades, Australians have known of the presence of widespread gold nuggets on or very near the surface over a very large region of northwestern Australia, and it had become a common practice for people using metal detectors to find nuggets over the barren desert land, and for a few it had become a fairly profitable hobby. But it wasn't until Dr. Quinton Henning's theory of how the greatest gold concentration on Earth was deposited in the Witwatersrand region of South Africa, it wasn't until his theories were tested in the Pilbara region of Australia that it became clear to a small number of Novo investors that Australia may well host a second gold deposit of similar magnitude as the Great Witwatersrand deposit. Which brings me to the subtitle of Bob Moriarty's book, that being, quote, Inside the Greatest Gold Discovery in History, end of quote. So the greatest concentration of gold on Earth discovered and mined to date has come from the Great Witwatersrand region of South Africa. In fact, something like 30 to 40% of all the gold ever mined in the history of humankind has been produced from there. Those of us who have followed Dr. Henning's progress in applying geological science to the discovery of hundreds of square kilometers of gold-hosting conglomerate reefs are now convinced that Bob Moriarty's claim that Novo has made the greatest gold discovery in history may indeed be borne out over time. I have kept up with Dr. Henning's work on behalf of Novo now since the summer of 2013, when I first added the story to my newsletter, Jay Taylor's Gold, Energy, and Tech Stocks. But no one has kept up with the evolution of the Novo Resources story more intimately than Bob Moriarty, who will be with me in just a few minutes after a first commercial break. And I dare say that no one knows Dr. Henning personally better than Bob, with the exception, of course, of Quinton's immediate family. Bob has spent many days visiting Novo's project in Western Australia, and he has traveled with Quinton to other projects over the years. Bob has learned to know the very colorful characters who have been involved, not always in a helpful way, but who nonetheless are essential elements of the Novo Resources story. Mark Creasy, a wealthy Australian prospector and major landowner, has been an essential element in Novo's success, though he sometimes was not always terribly helpful. A key to Novo's success has been funding from legendary investor Eric Sprott, who has had a close working relationship with Quinton Henning over the years, and from my understanding continues to work well with Dr. Henning even now. Bob Moriarty knows all of these people, and What Became of the Crow is not only a fascinating read laced with Bob's gut-splitting humor, but he paints a colorful picture of what I'm convinced will, over the years to come, be known as a great gold discovery, if not the greatest gold discovery in history. That, of course, remains to be proven, but last week Novo made the first giant step towards showing that the proof will be in the pudding when it is poured. Or maybe we should say when the gold that is poured from the great conglomerate rocks rolls out from the newly acquired mill. The challenge Novo has had in getting to this point are discussed in Bob's book, and he will no doubt address some of those key issues in a few minutes when I speak with him. But what I was required to turn to this vast seeming wasteland into potentially what was required to turn this vast seemingly wasteland into potentially one of the largest gold fields on Earth was some ingenious thinking and application of new technologies. While it is true that the origins of the great Witwatersrand gold deposit in South Africa have a lot in common with Novo's gold deposits in the Pilbara, Novo has faced the challenges of very coarse gold, which makes it extremely difficult to assess gold reserves and the grades of those reserves. But Novo is also operating in a desert where there is no water supply, where in a few weeks of the year there is so much water that everything is shut down. Novo has apparently addressed those obstacles so that it is now in a position to mine what I believe will be countless millions of ounces of gold over hundreds of square kilometers of conglomerate-hosted gold in the years to come. Quinton Henning will join me in the final segment of today's show to not only talk about the early stages of gold production for Novo, but how he expects the company to grow profits and gold production and profits in the months and years to come. It is truly an exciting story that I have kept track of and look forward to what he has to say.